On this podcast, we say the S word all the time, but what does it actually mean? That's right, today we're talking about structure. Let's go!
Hodges done it from nowhere. Boston to goal from inside the 30. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty. Yes! You're a magician. Petrarca. The legend becomes immortal.
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on Twitter at Ball Boys Fantasy, and you can find us on Twitter at Ball Boys AFL. Riding shotgun with me, Luke Rogerson, coach of the Oxlongs. How are you, mate? Ready to talk some structure today?
Structure? I'd never heard of her, mate. What's she all about?
What's she all about? How we're going to start our teams in round one. And we talk about it because it is very important, in my opinion. We can talk about these players and things like that. But how we put together the jigsaw puzzle that is our team to make the most amount of cash, to score the most amount of points, is very, very important. So we're going to talk about that a bit today.
Yeah, I reckon it's a good time to talk about it as well because obviously after the practice games on the weekend, I think you've been tinkering with your team. I've been tinkering with my team, and you just find yourself going down.
Tinkertown right now.
It is Tinkertown. You go down the rabbit hole, and the thing that I think you probably forget, you start to put the faces in there, but really what I think you should be playing around with is different structures.
Yeah.
Depending on how kind of the cards fall after round zero, especially.
Yeah. And like you said, experiment. Have a look and see what looks the best for you, what you're most happy with. We're going to talk about different key questions, I guess, that we should be looking at, key decisions you have to make to find the right structure for your team. So we're going to get stuck into that now. We will be alluding to our structures and I guess our teams throughout this podcast. But if you want basically the full Monty, if you want the full reveal of the fantasy teams from Luke and myself.
Yeah, okay. Was I meant to wear this for... Or was I?
Did I get
the wrong? The robe. Okay, that's
got it.
On the Patreon, is it?
Yeah, okay. On the Patreon,
Gotcha.
Luke will get the robe out and get the robe off, figuratively, of course. Go to patreon.com/ballboys to get our team reveals, which we will be doing this weekend, I think, when things are all going down. So we'll be revealing our teams. So go and check that out. And also, it's a quick reminder that to be involved in the Ball Boys Leagues, to get access to our prizes, you can join before round one. So you've got about, 2 weeks now to sign up and to be eligible for that prizes. It's $500 for the winner, $1,000 if you are a Big Boys member as well. So sign up to those.
The opportunity to win half your membership back if you beat the best ball boy as well, which we paid out thousands of dollars.
We did.
Because we sucked.
Yeah, it wasn't a great year. It could have been a lot more, but
it could have been a lot more.
We did pay out a lot of money last year. So, sign up today. All right.
Beautiful.
We're going to talk about some structure.
Well, you've started in the rucks, and I know why you have this.
Yeah, this is where the first decision needs to land, I think.
Yeah, the hamster on the wheel in your brain has been turning over the last couple of days because you've got some spicy things that you might be wanting to do at R2, and your whole structure at the moment is kind of hinging on that ruck position. Tell me more. Yeah,
so obviously it's a huge amount of money that you're either saving or spending in the rucks, and I think this has just trickle effects the entire way through the rest of your teams. So firstly, set and forget. This was a structure debate for a little while ago. Are we just saying that that's off the table this year with the ruck rules changing and all this sort of unknown stuff about how rucks are going to hold up? Not to mention some of the best rucks have early buys.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's off the table. I'm more confident in the set. I'm not as confident about the forget.
You just can't forget.
Well, I mean, Tristan Sherry's been rolling around in my team for the whole preseason, and then a guy, like a Tim English or someone, if someone pops a decent score opening round, could you be tempted to start them? Your intention there is set and forget. But you accurately point out that with these new ruck rules, maybe the forget part is the issue. So I don't think it's off the table, especially depending on what we see in round zero from a Grundy, from an English, these types of guys. But that being said, there are some the spicy options that are being floated this preseason that, if they put their hands up, then maybe we have to pick them too.
I agree that it's not off the table. I think if things go the way that they're looking, it's unlikely that I will start with a set and forget, and I've been wanting to avoid doing that all the preseason. But if other options fall over, if we don't get a score from Briggs and the role looks like he's playing forward like he was on the practice match, or if McAndrew isn't there or he's playing dual ruck setup and we do get some pop scores from English and Grundy, then you might kind of have to go that way. But right now, if I have the choice and how I think it's going to go, I'd probably put on the less likely side to structure up that way.
You mentioned McAndrew there. Obviously, we saw him play reasonably well in the practice game, and he's a guy that has definitely been getting around at R3 spots, but even R2 spots. So It's a structure podcast. Currently, he's sitting at your R2.
He is my R2, yeah.
Structurally, what does this allow you to do?
Well, it allows you to have a premium in another line, okay? So effectively, you're trading a premium ruckman for a premium midfielder. And if you think about, if you were to compare your confidence level in Tim English, your confidence level in Max Gawn, who are some of the most expensive players in the game, or whether it's a Brodie Grundy or even a Tristan Sherry, if you compare the confidence you have in those players versus an Errol Goulden, versus a Zach Butters, versus a Jai Caldwell, or any of these sort of types of players, I'm just way more confident in those types of players than I am with the ruckman and how they're going to go, whether it be for the rules, the early bye, scoring potential captaincy. Are you in week 1? Are you really going to want to put a captaincy on one of the rucks? That to me is something that if I'm paying up, I want to be able to captain you. If I'm not confident enough to do that, why have I got you on my side? So you got to compare him, and he's a rookie, just like Yulin's a rookie, and then the premium you're getting on the other side is you got to compare that to what you don't have.
I gave you hell on the last podcast. I'm still a little skeptical, but I want to talk it through with you because the wheels have been turning. So the point that you make is okay, let's say we pick a Tim English instead on the ruck line versus an Errol Goulden. Well, we think that even though they both have early buys, we think Errol actually has upside, so he's a better kind of underpriced premium pick. The issue in my mind is that it's not that straightforward just because of the position. And I don't want to say the P word for the 17,000th time, but talk to me about contingency.
Penis! Is that the one you mean?
That's not what we do on this podcast, mate. I don't know what you're talking about, mate. That's not us.
The parachute.
The
parachute
the contingency. So talk to me about the contingency here. If it goes wrong with McAndrew, the C word.
The C word. Careful.
The contingency.
Oh, no.
Not the contingency plan.
Oh, we're off the rails. Okay, get us back on track.
The contingency. So,
yes.
What are you going to do if it goes tits up? Talk to me. You've even floated some flexibility with the forward line.
Yes. So, okay, this is where I think there's a bit of flexibility this year specifically with a couple of different things, right? The early buys. We hate the early buys. But in this situation, the early buys could be our savior, right? Round 1, you're going to have a clear sight on whether or not it's McAndrew by himself or McAndrew with Rob or no McAndrew, okay? So if he's named solo ruck, you at least know for that first week, which is best 22, he's going to be there, okay? Worst possible case scenario, he gets dropped in round 2.
Yep.
Round 2 is best 18. Do you actually have to have a trade that week right there ready to go? I would argue I don't think you absolutely have to. It's a rookie that's not going to be on your field.
Yeah, this is fair. And you've got a premium in another line.
You've got a premium in another line. So worst case scenario, you got a best 21. You got 21 players for best 18. So 3 drop off. But he's more than likely maybe a player that would have dropped off anyway. He's a rookie scorer.
Yep.
Okay. So that's the worst case scenario. You leave him weak. That gives you 3 weeks of best 18s to sort out some kind of a plan.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were to start like my guy here is a Kalani White, he's a ruck forward option. Because one of the arguments that people would have is, okay, why not start him at R3? Because if he goes down, you don't have to trade him. You can just leave him there. He comes back and he keeps generating cash. You could still do that move if you've got a ruck forward in R3. Trade out, say, someone like a failed forward mid-pricer, whether it's a Rochelle, a Philippou, a Connor McDonald, someone like that. Or even a Petrarca on his buy, and trade him to a ruckman and do a little DPP action and do it that way. So you don't actually have to do the full move of the rookie all the way up to the premium if you have that ruck forward in your R3 flexibility. So that's sort of the contingency plan, especially, and you could maybe, if it's week 2, make a trade in week 2, gain a bit of cash in the bank so that trade's easy to execute in week 3. Because again, you don't have to do it that week with the best 18.
Yeah, and the ability for you to then continue to operate with your red dot, which I know is something that you like to do, not everyone loves to do, I think is a benefit there as well.
And you can still use the red dot in the ruck line through the utility spot.
I think the thing that maybe gets this over the line when we talk it out is the early buys.
Yes.
And that ability to hide there. So I'm less poo-poo than I was the other day. But the bet still stands. If you start, I'll give you $100.
Okay, yeah.
And if you don't, I get $100.
Can I make the
you want to up the wager?
If can I make the asterisk that if Rob's there round 1, I'm not starting him. So if he's solo rucking, I will start him.
So you want to change the bet?
No, I'm just putting the little backup plans.
No, I think that's fair enough. Okay, yeah, $100.
I'm liking the idea because it just feels like if you compare McAndrew to other rookies, I think he's a good rookie. If you compare the rucks to other premiums, especially the premium midfielders, which you'd be getting up for, I think it's a win-win in both situations.
Yeah, agreed.
There is risk. Obviously, there's risk. Yeah. But there's risk in starting expensive rucks.
Yeah.
Like, let's not ignore that risk. It's not like you're doing this and the alternative is like sunshine and rainbows. Like, if that was the case, if this was Grundy Gorn back in the day, set and forget, and you're going against these guys that are 120s, everything's hunky-dory, you'd be a bit more crazy. But it's not. It's a different year. It's a different set of rules. It's a different time. So I think we've got to take each year on its own merit, who plays for Essendon still.
He does indeed. Yeah. Normally you would say it and you'd let me do the gear.
No, it's just one of those foregone ones. So I think that's the first decision you have to make. And I don't think that, there is a world where the right thing to do is McAndrew R3. Like that. I'm not saying that it's foregone for me that it's the way to go. Like, there is still risks. I'm acknowledging that. But I think there's just a few things you can do, you can put in place to, mitigate that risk at least a little bit.
Okay. Continuing with the structure. I want to talk rookies. Now, it's the age-old adage. Rookies dictate the structure.
We did a disservice. We said this. We couldn't remember who said it back in the day, but I think it was the great man, the Warn Dog, who came up with the rookies dictate your structure.
Our apologies, Warn Dog. But it's truer words never told, right?
Yes.
And the Warn Dog knows what he's talking about.
It's one of the 10 commandments in fantasy, I think.
So we build our
9?
team.
I don't know.
That being said, we build our team from the bottom up. How are you looking at the rookies on each line as it stands?
Yeah. So this is where I think you got to look at, not only the rookies that are available, but who are the rookies that you are confident to have on field. And I want to start actually in the forward line, because there's actually only one rookie that I think I'm confident to have on field, and that's Devon Robinson.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got other options there like Leo Lombard, Lockie Doverston. I don't think I want them on my ground. Would you agree with that? Is there anyone else that I'm forgetting that?
Yeah, I agree.
Could be there?
No, I agree. I think that the rest of the options have either the combination of not the best role or shaky job security at their club. So I'm looking at like a Leo Lombard. I think that week to week, Gold Coast is a very talented outfit. Is there a chance that he either is that kind of last guy on the bench or is playing that role that's not fruitful? Whereas what we saw from Devon Robertson on the weekend was really good. Now, keeping in the forward line, how does this to me kind of shifts the way I'm structuring up? Because with one rookie on the field, there is a scenario where I've contemplated not having Harry Sheasel, just because it goes against what we've talked about in terms of starting a top price guy.
I'm not totally against it.
The structural issue I'm having is if Robertson's my only rookie on field and I don't start Sheasel, there's not really enough of those mid-price / underpriced premiums to fill.
Well, there's a few popping up. It would take all of them working for it to be successful.
And that's the issue I'm having. So do you kind of see that structurally, again, with only one rookie on field, we kind of have to just commit to Sheasel along with everyone else?
I am leaning that way, and this is one of the decisions we'll talk about later, but I think it is nice to have that, you feel like that's something, there's a bit of safety in just having one of those top guys locked in.
Yep.
I think you could make the argument that you could choose between either having him or Petrarca, because we're pretty confident Petrarca's going to be a top 6 forward as well.
Especially with Rao missing a bit of footy.
Especially with Rao missing a little bit of footy, the nice early fixtures. The difference is I think Sheasel is a captain option, and Sheasel doesn't have an early bye.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that leans me that way, despite him being more expensive. I actually think that he and Petrarca offer similar levels of upside and similar levels of value, despite obviously there being like 15, 16 points difference. So I'm leaning that way. But again, if you were to go against it, you had confidence in the mid prices, then I'm not going to... I think not starting Harry Sheasel is a legit play.
If Sheasel goes 110, which is what he's priced at over the first little bit, you choose not to start him, and the player that you start in place makes money for you.
You haven't lost anything.
You're not hurt.
As long as you've got another captain option somewhere else on your ground that you can happily use, and I think there are plenty of other options, then for sure, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I don't think... I think there's more to this than just being the contrarian play that some people, I think
consider it
might be.
Yeah,
because there's a few of those kind of like fantasy theories that suggest that starting him isn't all right. But structurally, I think it's difficult because of the less availability of rookies.
Yeah, and I think it's the lack of rookies. So you're gonna want to fill, let's call it at least 4 spots with quote unquote mid prices. Now I think one of those mid prices is Sam Flanders, who's one of the biggest locks in the entire game. So you feel confident about him, but that leaves you with maybe 3, and if you're not going Harry Sheasel, 4. Let's call it speculative picks.
Yeah.
Okay. If we go to other rookies and other lines, this is where you start to go down. Okay, who do these guys I want on field? Jagger Smith, we're going to start him on field.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going to have at least one rookie on your field in the midfield. I'll start naming some other players. Sam Grill, happy to have him on field. I think I am.
Yep.
He's going to be in field. Let's call it. He's defender mid, but let's put him in defense. Are we happy to have someone like a Josh Lindsay on field?
I liked what I saw from the role on the weekend. But
so he's a maybe.
He's a maybe. I feel more confident with both Euland, and I actually liked more than I think what you did. I actually liked what I saw from Dersma on the weekend.
Okay.
Keep in mind, he's playing wing, which we think is a good position, especially for those younger guys.
Yep.
But he is playing in a team that barely scores any points as well.
Yep.
But I really liked what I saw from him. So
there are a lot of people that are saying that he looked really good too, and his job security seems to probably be one of the strongest of anyone's.
Yes, yeah, I agree. So those guys that you listed there, maybe aside from Lindsay, I'm feeling pretty confident about.
So if you're happy with Jagger Smith and Dersma, that's 2 rookies in your mids.
Yep.
Let's call 2 out of the 3 of Lindsay, Grill, and Euland. Say you're going to have 2 in the back line.
Yep.
So that leaves you with 5 rookies. Now, I think you might... If you have McAndrew, that might be all the rookies you have on field.
Yeah. Are we counting a Blackiston?
I probably would count. I'm going to call him a cash cow.
Yeah.
Okay, so your question is there, do I want him on field? Okay. That's actually a good question, and maybe we'll talk about that in our cash cow podcast next week. I want another game to watch him, but is he as important to your side as some of these other guys?
Structurally in defense, I think that he's kind of... He along with the availability of like a Nick Newman, I think is kind of a hinge point in my team at the moment, and other people might be finding this as well. If Nick Newman's available, I probably either don't start Blackiston at all, or I shift him down the pecking order in defense. But then you've got other names. So you've got McCarthy, you've got McKercher, you've got Bergman, you've got these guys. How many of those guys can we start when we actually probably have the best rookies in defense?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
if rookies dictate our structure, that in my mind says that we can't start all of
the good thing is Sam Grill and Zeke Euland are both mid defender DPP.
Yep.
So there's a very strong world and a realistic world where you actually start one of those defender rookies in your midfield anyway. Because... And this is, again, the next question. Okay, so we've got some of those key rookies. The next thing I think you've got to look at is who are the must-have mid-prices. Okay, and we started to name a few there. So in defense, let's call it... I want to go through and maybe name some mid-prices that I think are must start. Let's start with Flanders. Okay, I think you have to have him in there somewhere. I think if he's playing, and this is maybe a question, is Colby McKercher still a must-have mid-pricer? underpriced premium.
I think he's verging on underpriced premium,
Yeah.
but I think he is. The nature of the injury to me suggests that if he's named round 1, I'll probably go there.
There was an injury to a key Kangaroo player we had a couple years ago that did not deter us, and the saying was, you don't run on your face. The same is true with your fingers. You don't run on your fingers unless you're fucking Gollum, you know? So assuming that Colby doesn't run on his fingers, I think he'll be okay. And I heard someone say, we want him kicking the ball more anyway.
Yeah,
so
correct.
Maybe it's a good thing. Kick to handball ratio up.
And to be fair, Colby's more of a handball receive guy rather than a sort of intercept mark guy.
Yeah.
So he's not, the ball's coming a little bit slower.
So I think if he's there round 1, sight unseen, I'm still happy to start him. I think he was one of the more locked-in defenders for me anyway. Here's where we get a bit more speculative. I'm going to say Darcy Parish. If we continue to see what we saw last week, I'm going to say he's a must-have mid-pricer. Agree? Disagree?
I agree. He's been there all preseason, and you know how much I am not a fan of Darcy Parish. So the fact that he's been there suggests to me that he's ticking boxes.
The next 2 forwards, I think, I'm calling them must-haves based on what we saw last week, but if we see something different, it can change. Mateus Philippou, if he has the role that he had on the practice match, you're throwing up in your mouth a little bit. I think he's a must-have at his price. Now, you will get a score, and the same can be said with Connor McDonald. You're going to get a score in round 0. You're going to see... Now, if they have the role that they had on the weekend, or the week just gone, on opening round, I think you're going to have to find room to have those guys in.
Yeah.
So I think those are the guys that you're sort of going to make room no matter what. The rest, you kind of fill in around it. So, in terms of the defense, if we go back there... How many of those guys can you fit in? Like you said, I think Nick Newman is a big key point there. If he's there, and he has to be there round 0. If he's not there round 0 and he's there round 1, I don't think you can pick him. Agree with that?
It feels like playing with fire.
Yeah. So the other guys, you're sort of around that price point. You've got Miles Bergman.
Yeah.
I'm warming to Tom McCarthy a lot.
He looked good.
Because he's not far off those guys. A little bit more, but not far off.
The role looked amazing.
Like, if you have question marks over Miles Bergman and his role, you will have no questions, I don't think, with Tom McCarthy in his role. The difference is he's playing for West Coast versus Port Adelaide, who have the 5 easiest matches known to mankind.
Yeah, and I think the stat that I found the other day was in the last 6 years, there's only 3 players to average 96 or more at West Coast. And that's effectively what we need him to be to be a decent pick. He's priced at 84. Mid-90s. So it'd be a decent pick. But
90 plus, I think, is a pass.
Yeah.
It's not like a knockout pick, but it's you'd live with that.
What I saw on the weekend that I liked was I had no question about his ability to find the footy, but going into that role, I wanted to see whether he would do the tough stuff. And from what I saw, he was very, very happy to do the tough stuff. So, yeah, I think he stocks up. One of the reasons I don't think that you can have all of these guys, even if maybe prior to round 1 they're all ticking the boxes, is just like I said, the rookies. You did mention you can move some of those to the midfield, but in my mind, looking at my team as it stands now, I would only feel happy moving kind of one of them to the midfield. Because I think our midfield, and it's probably a segue to the midfield, is our midfields are starting to look pretty deep depending on what structure you're running.
I think the depth of the midfield will go back to one of the first things we asked. Are you starting Lachlan McAndrew at R2? If you're starting Lachlan McAndrew at R2, you're going to want to have a pretty deep midfield, I think. If McAndrew is R3, and that might be another reason to start McAndrew at R3. If you like a lot of these mid-prices, like if you have to have Colby McKercher, Miles Bergman, Nick Newman, Tom McCarthy, maybe you need to start Grill, and maybe you like a Blackerson as well.
Yep.
Then you probably need to start like a Sam Grill and a Hewland in the midfield.
Yeah.
You might need to do that. And then, you've got like a Darcy Parish, instead of being M6 or M5, maybe he's M4 or M5 or something like that. You're a bit mid-price heavy, but if you're confident with that, then that's a play. I also want to ask you, Luke, the question of do we have to start Connor Rosie at D1?
Are you entertaining him, starting him at D2, or are you just
eliminating, cutting him, and starting someone like starting someone like a Tom McCarthy or a Colby McKercher at D1. If, for example, Nick Newman is there round 0, if Miles Bergman continues to have the role, we've got all those rookies. Maybe we want to fit in a Blackiston. There's a lot of value in defense. Like Rosie is there because he's got the run. He's a premium without the early buy. A lot of defenders have the buy. But if there's so many guys ticking the boxes in defense, is there a need to have Connor Rosie? You can't captain him and Butters at the same time.
You can't. And even, I think I looked into this a little while back, I think that the draw between Port Adelaide and North Melbourne is not super favourable for captaining both him and Sheasel.
Yeah, they play a lot of times at the same time,
for all of those kind of first sort of 4 or 5 weeks. So, I mean, maybe there's an argument, but doesn't he tick the perfect box of the slightly underpriced premium here with the kind of somewhat injury-hampered last year, the great run? This to me seems like, why would he be the guy that you cut?
It does. I mean, he's a little bit more. He's 104 priced up. Like, it's not that much value. Right now, he is currently the second most expensive player in my side. Third most expensive behind Sherry Just. So, he's not cheap.
He's not. If your argument for not starting him was to fit in someone like a Miles Bergman, well, the reason you're fitting in Bergman is because you think he's going to play more midfield, which in theory means Rosie should play more half back, which we know is the role where he can just go bananas.
Yeah, the thing is as well, we're going to talk about him in a sec, but like if I could cut someone, I'd actually like to cut Zach Butters, but I feel like structurally, I have more confidence in the defender mid-prices than I do in the midfield mid-prices. But I might be, and there's some mid-prices in the midfield that are growing, I think, in confidence. So those are again, I don't think we're going to solve anything on this podcast, but these are the questions I think we should be asking ourselves and posing. Because I think Connor Rosie, he's been there for everyone. He's 55% owned. He is so highly owned. But I think there's, and again, people might be calling, I'm just making content on a podcast, but I think these are legit questions that it's not necessarily an issue with Connor Rosie. It's like the opportunity cost that you're having by not having some of these other guys, which might be the best picks that you could start with.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't think anyone's ever thought that we're the guys with the answers. We just like to talk about it. If they have, they've been absolutely wrong. But the fact of it is, these are the conversations you should be having with your mates as well, because the last thing that you want is we get round 0 scores and a few crazy left field things happen and you're like, fuck, I haven't even thought about a different structure. I haven't even thought about, what's to say Connor McDonald and both McDonald and Philippou lay an egg in round 0? Okay, what are you going to do now? Have you played a structure with Sheasel, Petrarca, and going with two fucking forward rookies? I don't know. So we got to hash it out, I guess.
100%. So just to clarify, I want to use your team as an example. How many rookies do you have? And if you have Blackiston, include him as a rookie. How many rookies do you have in defense?
3 on field.
On field, yeah. Sorry, on field.
3 on field.
3 on field. And is Blackiston one of them?
He is. Okay. But it is 2026, so just careful.
Where's old Whiteiston? Actually, no, he's on my bench in my R3 spot. Okay, and what about in the midfield? How many rookies do you have in the midfield?
Uno.
1. Okay. And
but
do you have Lachlan McGann? Where do you have him? No, you're using your R3, but you got no one R2.
R3. I'm once again on strike. I'm on strike from
remaining salary. You got $1 million. Okay, so that's with him at R3. Okay. So that all up,
but I don't suspect that I'll end up with both Ralston and Lindsay.
Okay, so that's maybe the next question we'll go into. Because I think defense, there's like an embarrassment of riches.
Yep. Well, he did retire, but yep.
Yep. Midfield. How confident are you? So we talked about Darcy Parish probably being the must-have midfield mid-pricer.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on some of these guys emerging? I know you've talked a lot about Will Brodie. I've talked a lot about Xavier Lindsay. And probably more recently, Harry Ralston has emerged as an option. I did look into it after our last podcast a little bit further. He actually was the sub a few times for GWS. If you remove those sub games, he already presents, I think, with about 10 to 15 points of value. Similar argument like that we've been using with the Sam Lawler kind of thing. Is he someone that we would entertain maybe instead of those guys with the injuries to Tom Green? Obviously, you're going to get a look in round 0.
Yeah.
Then again, he also has a round 4 bye. So what are your thoughts on on those options as the mid prices? Do you think we need to have one of them, or is it kind of that awkward price point that you want to avoid?
I mean, there could even be an argument for having multiple of them, depending on, we said Jagger Smith, we said Dersma as midfielders that we'd be happy to start on field. Where does the list go from there?
Yeah.
You know, who are the rookies that we drop down to from there?
You got players like Cumming and Sharp.
And although Cumming's good, I'm not sure what kind of a player. I just lost it. Just completely. Just fumbled it.
Your eyes light up. You cannot help yourself. Your jaw just unhinges and you just take the bait.
Swallowed it whole. But I just don't have anywhere to go ever.
Back yourself into a corner.
Man. And so, I mean, what I'm getting at there is, okay, well, if you're confident in maybe 2 of the midfield rookies, and I'm talking
There's not too many. There's not too much depth, I don't think. There.
Yeah. So if you're really confident with those 2, and then the next couple of midfield rookies that you're picking, you kind of go, okay, are they going to be in and out? Are they going to play a good role?
Because you want to think about your bench too.
You do, bench hygiene. So why not, if you think both Lindsay and Rouston are both going to play a good role, both going to make money, is there an argument to say that you go really deep in the midfield with those mid prices? Where does that hurt you? Let me work out, why would that be a bad thing to do? What's the scenario where that goes tits up?
Where it goes tits up is that you want to compare the upside of them versus the upside of a rookie. And if the upside is less, is it offset by an improved job security? Yep. Okay, so for example, Jagger Smith, he's probably a bad example. Let's use a different one. What's your mate Dersma cost? $350.
Yep.
So he's priced at, if I bring up his price stat figure, I think it's like 33 or something like that. 33. So he's priced at 33 versus a Rouston, who's priced in the 50s, I want to say. He is priced at 52. So let's call it, you need Harry Rouston to outscore Dersma by 20 points or more for it to be worthwhile, because they started at 20 points priced out difference. Number one, do you think that's going to happen?
I think it's a pinch. What about the argument to say that, okay, if you don't know prior to going to round 1 who that kind of 3rd, 4th, 5th midfield rookie that we're going to need to have is there an argument to say we'll just start with Rouston and be prepared to go down if required? Or is that...
Potentially, because then you would still have Dersma but on the bench. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good argument. I think that's probably one of the better arguments, I think, for doing that, because it's not necessarily Dersma that you're worried about, but the guy you're putting in on the bench by having him on the field. So that's one of the arguments. One of the things you would also say, though, okay, so say you expect Dersma to average 60 conservatively. Yeah. Do you think Rouston's going to average 80? Okay. Because he would need to do that to be a worthwhile pick to have on the field, because the money you save from going into Dersma on your field, you could then put on someone else instead of having a mid price to have a premium, save yourself a trade, maybe a captain option. Like, there's a fair bit of money difference there. That's sort of the difference. And the thing about the midfield is you put 20 points, hell, even 30 points on an 50 priced out player. There's still someone you need to trade. You do that in the defense, like you go from, 50 to 85 or 55 to 85. Like, that's someone you can pretty much keep for a little while, because you're not that far off the premiums.
Some of those guys that we've been talking about.
In the forward line, even more so the case. Yeah. So that's why to me, there's a little bit of a higher bar in the midfield, because it's just a little bit more awkward, a bit more of a stretch to get to a guy that I don't want to trade at some point, because he's given up more points to the premiums. So right now, I don't have any of those guys. I had play around with Lindsay there. Lindsay, I expect, will pick up DPP, which is a tick in his box, I believe. But at the same time, it's sort of do I prefer him and having maybe a Hewland in my defense, or do I prefer having, a Newman, McKercher, and a Bergman, all three of those guys, and having Hewland in my midfield? So it's sort of a give-take there, is sort of the question that I'm asking myself.
Talk to me, maybe the last point here, depending on anything else you've got, but talk to me here about the early buy rounds, the players you're picking, and then the reason I bring this up in the Structure podcast is because although we talk about it being best 18, with these early buy round players, if you don't have the DPP to swing players into different positions, you might actually get caught having less performing players in those early buy rounds. So what do we need to be considering structurally with these early buy round players that we might pick?
The first thing I think you need to have a look at is on any given buy round, do you have an issue where you're going to run into the fact that you can only get less than 22 on field? Yep. So the buy round I think most of us are going to have trouble with is actually round 3. And I think it's going to be in our forward line. So round 3, we have Connor McDonald. We've got Christian Petrarca. We've got Leo Lombard as a rookie. We've also got Connor Buderick. We've got Joel Frazier. These are common players floating around a lot of teams. On that buy round, you also have, are you going to put Brodie Grundy in your side? Are you going to have an Errol Goulden? You've got Zeke Euland there as well. Lockie Jakes, who's there as well in our defense line. So you want to look at the lines, but then you also want to look at the total numbers. Okay? Like, for example, if I want to start Errol Goulden, and we talked about Connor McDonald as maybe one of those must-have rookies, mid-prices if he does what he did last week. Does that lead you away from starting someone like Christian Petrarca? Because now, and again, if you've got Leo Lombard sitting on your bench,
yep,
are you going to run into round 3 only having 21 of your 22, and 2 of them being Goulden and Petrarca, who, are premium scorers?
Yeah, they are. Currently, he's not at the Oxlongs. I do think there's a couple of scenarios that pop up where Christian Petrarca can be traded at his buy
agree.
as well. I think there's a couple of situations where that might be true. So maybe you can hide behind that, and if nothing else is happening, it could even be just a strategic play that you make. And maybe it's to that mid-price guy that you didn't quite hit. Might be a little bit far down the track by come that point. But it's something that you need to consider, right? As my team stands, I don't think I'm going to have any issues, but I can see different iterations that I've had of my team. I can see where that wouldn't have even been something that popped into my head, and until you think about it and go, oh, how am I actually going to flick this around? You might have
start to actually plan it out. Okay, if you've got the AFL Fantasy coach subscription, you can flick it on and go, okay, I'd have to put Lockie Dobson on my field and put McDonald on my bench, and I've still got Christian Petrarca. Fuck, okay, I'm only going to have 21 that field. Do I have a forward in my utility? Can I swing that happening? And with the amount of rookies we have in the forward line, I don't think that rookie, if you have one in the forward in the utility, is going to be a good one, if anything.
Probably not going to count.
So, and maybe you go in with 21. I don't necessarily, that might not be the worst thing in the world, because you might just be losing a rookie score that wouldn't have been that big anyway. But it might be if you also then have Errol Goulden and you've got Brodie Grundy or Tim English or one of these other guys that are also premiums that you're missing as well. You're starting to go down quite a fair bit in your side. So I think it's, look at the line, but I think almost more importantly, look at the total amount of players that are missing on that week, any given week of the early buy rounds. Lots of structure chat, mate.
Yeah, good fun. It's just the ramblings of two madmen.
Yeah. It was a bit of a ironically, less structured podcast. But just a bit of a word vomit of my thoughts and your thoughts on things to consider when putting together your fantasy side. Now that we're starting to get more and more information, build from the ground up. And one thing I always like to do that I remind people of is once maybe these next games go across, the official practice match, delete team, do that exercise, build from the ground up, put the must-have rookies in there, put the must-have bid prices in there. If you want to put in certain captain players in there, we didn't talk about a lot of those, but you do need to have at least 2 or 3 captain options, I think. And then it's those last sort of key decisions you got to make afterwards.
Couple of screenshots as well, I reckon.
Screenshots are great.
Your different iterations.
I'm changing my team every fucking couple of hours at the moment.
You're going to run out of space for those screenshots,
I know. Lots of backup. All right. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. And a reminder, if you want some clear-cut screenshots and maybe some videos or podcasts of our teams, head over to patreon.com/ballboys and you will get our team reveals in the coming days and weeks. Plenty more good podcasts coming over there, including the Ball Boys All-Stars, where we just had Holmesy's Heroes, 3-time top 10 hat winner, jump on the podcast. Great episode. Go and check that one out on the Big Boys tier. If you're on the YouTube, hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe, 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye!